Imagine this: on an ordinary night, the lights go out. Not just on your street, not just in your city, but across the entire country. Your phone has no signal, the internet doesn't come back, radios fall silent. At first, you think it's just a blackout. But within hours, it becomes clear, something much bigger has happened. And the clock starts ticking. The first 72 hours after a collapse are the most critical. It's in this window that most people panic, and the right, or wrong, decisions can determine whether you survive or not. Supermarkets overflow, strangers fight over bottles of water, and the streets stop being safe. This is the moment when you must act with calm, focus, and method. On the first day, your priority isn't food, even though the instinct is to chase it. The human body can survive weeks without eating, but no more than 3 days without water. Your first mission, then, is to secure safe sources of hydration. The most common mistake is drinking any water you can find without treating it, something that can kill you as quickly as thirst. The second priority is shelter and safety. With the collapse of order, even peaceful neighborhoods can turn dangerous. Your home may be a good starting point, but only if it's discreet and minimally defensible. Avoid obvious places like supermarkets and gas stations, because those will be the first hotspots of conflict. If you need to move, use side streets, never main roads. The most important thing on day one is to understand that you cannot count on authorities. Police, firefighters, and hospitals will be overwhelmed or shut down. That means every decision is your responsibility. In the initial chaos, keeping a cool head is the most valuable skill you can have. Those who panic are the first to die. As the night falls on the first day, the risks change. With darkness come more assaults, violence, and collective fear. Many will try to flee toward rural areas, but roads quickly jam. If you weren't prepared before, taking the highway at night may be more dangerous than staying put. Your priority must be to remain invisible: little light, little noise, no attention. In chaos, visibility equals vulnerability. If you still haven't secured water, the best time is before the second day begins. Sources like water tanks, showers, even toilet reservoirs may still be available. These run dry quickly, but they can save lives early on. Store as much as possible in bottles, buckets, or any clean container. Most importantly, never drink without boiling or filtering. Severe diarrhea can be fatal when hospitals aren't working. By day 2, reality starts to sink in. The initial shock fades, but collective fear grows. Families look for food, neighbors knock on doors begging for help, and conflicts become more frequent. This is the point where you must establish a survival routine, review your supplies, set rationing rules, and plan what you'll do if the crisis lasts beyond 3 days. Day 2 is also when the body begins to feel the effects of sleep deprivation and anxiety. A tired mind makes bad decisions. That's why it's essential to create some kind of shelter that allows minimal rest and basic security. Even if you only sleep for a few hours, you must be ready to react. An improvised shelter on higher ground, or even inside a reinforced, darkened room, can make all the difference. On the second day, hunger starts to creep in. But resisting the urge to rush out in desperate search of food is vital. The biggest mistake is wasting energy and exposing yourself too soon. It's not yet time for big expeditions. The focus must remain on water, safety, and discretion. Those who chase food on day 2 often end up as victims, not of hunger, but of violence from other survivors. By the end of day 2, the effects of a collapsed system are obvious. Stores are empty, pharmacies looted, gas stations abandoned. What once seemed temporary now begins to feel like true collapse. At this point, it's common for neighbors to form small vigilante groups to protect streets or buildings. This can be useful, but also dangerous. Remember, alliances made in desperation rarely last. If you are alone, keep your distance from large groups. The more people, the higher the chance of conflict. If you're with family or trusted friends, establish a watch routine, someone always awake, observing, while the others rest. The danger doesn't come only from strangers. It also comes from paranoia, hunger, and fear, things that can turn ordinary people into unpredictable threats. Day 2 is also the time to check your health. Small injuries can become fatal without antibiotics or hospitals. Treat cuts, scrapes, or burns immediately, using whatever you have: boiled water, clean cloth, improvisations. Ignoring a wound now could cost you your life in the days ahead. Survival isn't just about food and shelter, it's about preventing problems before they spiral out of control. When day 3 dawns, collective despair reaches a new level. People start realizing that help isn't coming. Looting intensifies. Stores, warehouses, even homes become targets. Many who stored supplies quietly become vulnerable due to simple mistakes: the sound of packaging, the smell of cooking, or even a window left ajar. The secret now is to stay invisible. Survival depends not only on what you have, but on what others believe you don't have. At the start of day 3, you must think beyond immediate survival. If the crisis continues, you'll need to decide: stay hidden and hope for normalization, or prepare to leave in search of alternatives. Deciding early is crucial. Waiting too long may trap you between two dangers: staying in a place that's no longer safe, or leaving too late, when desperation has consumed everyone. Day 3 is the turning point. Hunger becomes hard to ignore, and this is when many make the biggest mistake: wasting too much energy, risking everything on desperate searches. The truth is, the human body can endure weeks without food, but it can't survive a single fatal mistake from exposure or violence. Instead of chasing meals, your priority should be conserving energy and supplies, and avoiding confrontation at all costs. At this stage, violence becomes more organized. Groups that were just frightened neighbors on day May 1st now turn into makeshift gangs. They hunt for supplies aggressively, breaking into homes, buildings, and warehouses. That's why staying invisible remains the best strategy. A quiet, discreet shelter is worth more than any weapon or poorly hidden stash. If you must move on day 3, do it at dawn, before the streets fill. Carry only the essentials: water, an extra layer of clothing, and any basic cutting or defensive tool. Extra weight could cost you dearly. And remember, avoid highways and city centers. In survival, the longest and hardest paths are often the safest. As the third night approaches, you must have clarity about your situation. If you're still secure, you may be able to wait a bit longer. If your area has become too dangerous, the decision to leave must be made now. This is when you start thinking not just about surviving, but about continuing to survive beyond these critical 72 hours. And here lies the final lesson: the first 3 days are not about winning, but about enduring. If you make it through the first 72 hours, your chances of long-term survival rise dramatically. But collapse doesn't end on the 3rd day, it only begins. And the choices you make from this moment forward will decide whether you become just another victim, or someone who truly survived. If you made it this far, I want to hear from you. What would you do differently to survive the very first day of a collapse? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your insight might help other survivors think of new strategies. And stay tuned, because in the next videos we'll dive into even more vital skills: how to find and purify drinking water, how to build improvised shelters, and much more. This is just the beginning of the journey.